Greetings and welcome to the 80 Level Roundtable podcast. In each episode, host Kirill Tokarev invites video game industry leaders to talk about the world of game development. No topic is off limits as long as it relates to video game development. New episodes are in the works, so remember to follow us or subscribe and share with someone you know will also enjoy the podcast.
Hi, and welcome to 80 Level Podcast, where we discuss the latest news from game dev and talk about new techniques and tools. And today we have with us Scott Denton. I hope I pronounced this correctly.
Yes.
So Scott, could you do like a little intro about yourself and tell us where do you come from and all that jazz?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's important, but like I'm originally from Nashville. I grew up there. I've been living in New York now for, I don't know, the past, I think 17, 18 years now.
Wow.
I have kind of lived a few other places for some jobs here and there throughout that time, but I always had a home base here. I moved here in 2005 to work for a company called Shiloh, which is no longer around. They were a commercial company. I worked there for 2 years, and then I was freelance for I think 11 years. And that was while I was freelance. I was working in primarily commercial stuff, but also in film and video games and some 3D printing stuff here and there. I got a couple of years where I was doing a lot of stuff with shapeways and some other things like that. I almost started a jewelry company while I was doing that stuff. But throughout that time, the 11 years, I worked for Microsoft, DreamWorks, Disney, The Mill, and countless other little commercial studios here in New York, like PsyOp and Frame Store. And I've probably worked for somewhat like 100 studios.
Wow.
But like just bouncing around here and there. I actually moved out to LA for a tiny bit in 2016 for the job for DreamWorks. Almost moved out there for good, but ended up coming back to New York. And then most recently, in the last couple of years, I worked for Mill as a senior modeler for them for 2 years. And then I moved to London last November for a job for DNEG.
Wow.
To work as a supervisor on a few films. And then I got laid off from that, and then COVID hit, and then ended up coming back to New York. And now I'm working for Encore as a senior character artist for some stuff they're doing on contract for. But like, yeah, that's
a lot. Like you, seems like you traveled like everywhere. Like
yeah, I mean,
I didn't know about London.
Yeah, this year's been interesting. I've had 5 different jobs this year. I worked for a video game company for 6 months this year. That a friend of mine owns. That was supposed to be a thing that went longer, but like Trump opening his mouth, kind of not trying to get into that, but like we had an investor that was in mind, and like that investor was kind of Tencent, but like
yeah,
that kind of went away. So like, but yeah, it's been interesting. I also taught at an animation workshop in Denmark for 2 years in a row. Great school. But yeah, it's been an interesting year. I worked for Jellyfish for a little bit this year as a supervisor.
How does it feel how does the job market feel these days? Like with the COVID and everything? Like what's going on?
Honestly, I feel like I feel like a lot of people are out of work, but I feel like there's a ton of work. There's a lot of people hiring. It feels. I kind of posted about this yesterday, actually, that like there's a ton of work, but I feel like the recruiters that are recruiting for it don't know what they're looking for. And
I heard that before.
Yeah, it just feels like, and it's not just from my point of view, but like I've had a lot of conversations lately where it's like they've talked to the company, and then it just seems like the company doesn't actually look at their work. And then, I mean, the most recent job I got with Encore, I actually had the recruiter turn me down, and I was like, I know that I'm right for this position, so I went on LinkedIn and I found the actual supervisor for that job and I actually sent him what they were looking for. And that's how I got my most recent job.
Oh my God.
Because I was just like, I don't know, I was frustrated with the fact that I knew that I was capable of the work that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the recruiter had turned me down really kind of pissed me off. And I was like,
it's funny you're saying that. I never heard about this kind of situation. Because like from my experience, because we're doing a little bit of like a talent acquisition service right now.
Yeah.
It seems like a very weird thing because on one side you have, like a supervisor or like art director or someone who actually needs a person. On the other hand, you have a recruiter who not necessarily understands what he needs, right? And they are usually using just the tools that give them a lot of people, right? So you post something online, like a job post or something, and do an ad, and then you get like hundreds of applications, and you send those applications to the art director or the manager, who then goes through all of them, and like, I mean, let's face it, like a lot of them are not relevant to that position. So I'm not sure like how this should be structured. It's definitely not working like 100% right now.
No, and I've noticed with a lot of people like that I've been talking to recently. I mean, I applied to another place where they said that they only took like grayscale turnaround reels, and I'm like,
what?
And I've worked, and it's weird because it's like I've worked 17 years in the industry, like, and not saying that years make for great artists, like not all the time. That like, I mean, I know people that are 10 years in the industry are terrible at their jobs, but like, and I'm not saying that I'm outside of that either, but like, but it's it's frustrating when you know that you have the skill for a job and it seems like the people doing the recruiting or the hiring doesn't seem like they've looked at your actual resume or recommendations or your actual portfolio to find out if you're, I mean, I know that there's massive amounts of stuff that they have to sort through, but like it's frustrating when when you know you're right for a position and you're passed up. I mean, there can be some people that like can think they're right for a position and they're actually not right for a position, right? It's like,
I think it happens all the time.
That whole Dunning-Kruger, effect. But like,
do you sometimes feel that maybe the market is overloaded?
Yes, 100% for modelers for sure. Like, and sometimes as an educator, like I feel like, I mean, not that I don't want more people to get into this industry. I mean, I love what I do, and I invite everybody that wants to do this for a living to come into it. But sometimes too, I feel like there's only so much work to go around for everyone. Like,
yeah. This actually links up to like my next questions, because I mean, what's the current kind of situation with modeling overall?
I mean,
what's going on? Like, what are? Because here's where I'm coming from. So
yeah,
over the last couple of years, maybe since like 5 years since 80 level kind of been around, we see a lot of attempts to kind of, you know, make companies rely less on modeling directly, right? Because there's such a huge amount of content in games and film everywhere that they use procedural tools, they use photogrammetry, they might use something else, right? And I'm wondering if there's still a market for this kind of like profession, for this kind. Is there a need for like high quality modelers right now?
I mean,
And
yeah, I mean, it's so. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can make different content for right now, and like if you're still doing like feature animation and things like that, where you need art directed, like stylized stuff, then I mean, there's so much of that right now. I mean, with film semi moving towards like uh, Unreal, um, there's more assets being made there. Like there's like with VR and AR stuff that's coming on the horizon. There's more content to be made. Um, I mean, there's definitely a push with like Quixel and that stuff to like have assets that are already pre-made, and then you've got like a lot of like small studios, like or not small, but like good studios like what is it like kiosk masons. I don't know if that's how you say it, but like where it's like they're making content for like Fortnite, or they're like basically just content like
yeah,
companies.
mm-hmm.
Like there's tons of those springing up right now, and I think that's a reaction to like um, that there is a demand for it.
Yeah, I mean,
I almost did one myself a couple of years ago. I just didn't really want to have. I just didn't really want to own a company.
but you did, right? You did own a
Yeah, I mean,
company.
it was a thing called Solid .xyz, and like it was me. We never really finished the website, but like I was getting so much freelance work that I couldn't take all of it, and of um, I got tired of saying no to stuff basically. So like I just started saying yes to everything. And then
Mm-hmm.
we had a group of like 5 or 6 other people that were basically just me and my partner at the time. It was Ryan Kittleson. I don't know if you know him at all, but it's like me and him were kind of basically bringing the jobs in. And then we had like kind of like a graph that we basically were just like whoever was available could pick up whatever was available in our like calendar that we had set up.
Uh-huh.
And then me and Ryan were basically acting as the checking it to make sure that it's the quality we wanted to send out, and and that's kind of how it worked for a little bit. But then that kind of fell off the way because then I got hired by Mill, and Mill was a company that I always wanted to work for. So when they contacted me, it was kind of like, yeah, I guess I could continue doing this, but I really wanted to see what it was like to work at the mill and like be part of a team of that caliber.
So how did you like working there?
I loved it. I mean, I still love that company. I only really left because I got the opportunity to work at DNAG,
Mm.
and I had always wanted to live abroad. So, like, me and my wife like really wanted to like just live in London and be able to travel to the rest of Europe. And um, I mean, Mill was great. Like, we had a great team. It was really nice to be on a team that like really encouraged each other. Like my boss that brought me in was Adam Dewhurst. He really like set up a team that like like we all shared like new tools that we would find. Like we had like weekly meetings where we were like sharing like projects that we were working on personally, and like it was like I mean, I haven't really had that in my career, and I don't know if I'll ever have it again the way that team was. But I don't know. It was my experience at the mill
I
was
just
great. This is like all I can really say.
it's just like I heard some news like in the press which were not great, so I thought I'd ask.
Yeah. So Mill Film, I mean that news is terrible. The guy that committed suicide.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Mill Film is not like how Mill is how like Mill Film is like entirely separate from the mill. Like their work practices, like the way they set up their stuff are completely outside of like mill commercial division. Like it has the name, but like there's nothing like they don't have anything to do with each other really other than they're owned by Technicolor. But now they're not. Now Mill Film is no longer again, I think.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah, there's been a lot of. I'm trying to remember. I mean, Technicolor filed for bankruptcy, I think, at the beginning of December of last year, maybe, or maybe it was January. And during that process, I think Mr. X and which had merged with Mill Film, I think both of those went away, or maybe they're still around. I mean, you know how this stuff works. Like Rhythm and Hughes went away, but then or Digital Domain went away, and now Digital Domain's back again. So it's like it's crazy how these ups and downs of a company will go bankrupt, and then like 2 or 3 years later, like Framestore just bought the company I'm working for now, but then Framestore filed for bankruptcy like 4 years ago. Like
that seems very strange, right? Because you see a lot of people kind of go into this business, like VFX and like model, and you said yourself that there are like a lot of like smaller outsourcing houses out there, including a bunch of like big companies like Keyword Studios, like in China, and a ton of others like everywhere. So it seems like people keep coming into this field, but at the same time, people keep going bankrupt. Yeah, it's like
especially film. I mean, I know games.
Yeah, in film. I
know games is too, but like, I mean, in film, it's just like, I mean, just recently, like you have, like Vancouver has been the place where everything went to for a couple of years, right? Because they were getting tax incentives. And then most recently, like, basically the Vancouver government decided not to give those incentives anymore. So most of the film industry there picked up and left, and now they're going to Montreal because Montreal's offering those tax incentives now. Like these cities keep offering these tax incentives, thinking that the film industry is going to like embed and stay. But like what they don't know about the film industry is that it's fickle, and like wherever the money is, that's where they're going to go. Like, I mean, Atlanta right now is giving huge tax incentives. So like they're bringing a ton of, and I hope it stays because Atlanta's a great city, and like that money's great for that city. And I hope that like film would stay there. But like you can see what the film industry did to LA. I mean, it's still there, but like it's in shambles. Like it's not in shambles, but like it's just.
Yeah, it's not in shambles. I can't say that.
No, it's not in shambles, but like there's a lot of like stuff that left and went to Vancouver, and then like a lot of stuff that left and went to Montreal now. Like it's just a pattern that keeps repeating.
Yeah, I agree, but
sorry if I'm sounding like doomsday.
No. I think it's like it's a weird thing that keeps happening in this industry, and you're right, in film especially. With games, it does happen too, right? So there are companies being formed, then they release games, they don't fly, and then they go bankrupt again. Then like people, that's the funniest thing about like LA, because people keep flocking like in any other big hub, right? They
Yeah.
keep flocking from like one studio to the other, then the next, then the next, and the next. You know,
Yeah,
it's
and then
like a
there's little game
never-ending
studios that
cycle.
pop
Yeah.
up. There's little like creative studios that pop up. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
for as volatile as the industry, I mean, it's just always shifting and like changing. Like, I
It
mean,
seems like, yeah, to answer our original question is like if there's still space for like modelers, like in the broad sense of this. So it seems like there
yeah,
is some
there is.
space for them, right?
Yeah, sorry, I
There's
went on
definitely.
some huge diatribe.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still work to do, and there's like large projects that kind of need a lot of help.
Yeah,
So
I mean, there's tons of work in games. There's tons of work in VR. There's tons of work in AR. I mean, there's tons of work in like even medical animation. I mean, I think if you're a modeler, especially, and you want to work and you're hungry and you don't, and you're able to adjust yourself to kind of jumping back and forth to industries, there's work for you forever. Like, I mean, I know film guys that jump into doing toy design sometimes. I know the same thing that from game design. Like, I know, like, if you're willing and open to like kind of jump into whatever, then you can. There's tons and tons of work. Like, I a couple years ago ended up at Microsoft working on the HoloLens, and like I was on a team of like four dudes. We had like the two different fingerprints to get into the room that we were in. But like it was like 6 months of us just like kind of like messing around and seeing how far we could push the HoloLens. And for me, it was like one of my first times really. I mean, I'd done game stuff before, but like um, this was kind of game stuff, kind of like on the early end of doing things, but trying to do them and get away with having them look like current gen stuff, you know? Like like we had to like have very low polys so that like we weren't taking all the energy from the device. The textures could only be like a certain like way, otherwise we, took energy from the device. Like, but I mean, it was really interesting trying to figure that stuff out with a team, you know?
so I have a question. So you work like on a bunch of different projects, from like ads to film to animation to games, like a lot. So what's the pipeline? Like what are the tools that you're using all the time that you find, useful in most of the situations?
I mean, I use Maya on a daily basis for most like hard surface modeling. Still, I mean, I'm trying to start getting into Blender just for stuff because I feel like there's a push towards that from a lot of people, especially in video games. Um, ZBrush always, like, I mean, every day, like I use that program. It's so versatile for like everything, and for like all walks of like modeling. Um, for some modeling stuff, even getting into like substance where I can like bump out stuff that I can pop back to ZBrush. Even Mari, to where I'm using like XYZ information, uh, or like other displacement type information just to paint stuff and then bringing that back into ZBrush. Um, but yeah, like ZBrush, Maya. Um,
Do you think
I mean,
there's gonna
Houdini.
be, are you using Houdini?
I'm starting to dabble in it. I mean, I
Mm,
definitely I know that like like the company I'm working for now is pushing towards us all getting into that program. Like today, even I signed up for like they had us all sign up for like a learning course. So I mean, for like procedural stuff, like I mean that's going to be huge, especially for like working with Unreal and like being able to iterate and like I definitely feel like there's a huge push towards Houdini in this industry, like in all industries. I mean, just the other day,
Yes.
like Unreal invested. Didn't Epic invest in Unreal? I mean,
Yeah, they did. So that's basically the question. So it seems like the pipeline hasn't changed drastically since maybe the introduction of ZBrush,
yeah.
because that was like a huge change, right? So what do you think is going to change like in the next 5 years? Like, is there will we all switch to Blender and Houdini or something else?
I don't know, man. Like, I do think that like a lot of us will be working in Houdini a lot more. I do. I mean, I can't say that like people are gonna switch out of Maya and like pick up Blender, but like I do feel a huge push towards that from the artists, and um, I'm wondering how that will go. I mean, I think Blender's a great program, and it's got a lot of stuff in it, and it's free for the most part after you buy like all the all the plugins that make it like the beast that it can be. But I don't know. Like, I mean, there's times where in my job where I get in and I'm using Medium and Gravity Sketch to like kind of rough things out, and then when those are roughed out, then like I feel like we're kind of on this like I guess like precipice of like any of these things could be the next thing that we're all in. I mean, I definitely think Houdini will be like kind of king. Like, if anything, I feel like Houdini will be like the winner as I'm looking at it right now. But like, I feel like there's a lot of like separate little softwares and other things that are coming up. I mean, there's that company that Adnan started, Shamet. I don't know if that's how you say his last name, but like it's like Polygon Flow.
Oh yeah,
Like, I haven't seen any of their stuff yet, but I know that they're working on some crazy things that are going to be like kind of um, tools for all the softwares that but kind of work like in unison as like one thing to. I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of like the people that they're picking up kind of makes me lean towards it. They're trying to make like a tool set that like if you're using Maya, I mean it's similar to the what's Houdini engine. Like I feel like they're doing something similar to Houdini engine where like you can like if you have a tool that you're using in Maya, like Polygon Flow will have it, but then it will also be able to use that same tool inside of like 3D Max or like Blender or like I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I think it's weird that this industry on a whole is like very fragmented in terms of tools. So
Yeah.
like imagine there's like how many tools are there for modeling? Like a lot, right? Like
Yeah, I mean,
hundreds.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
a
like
lot of going on there.
yeah, and I mean every week now too, like with the advent of like what's the new like Bifrost inside of Maya? Like there's a lot of new tool development because that's opened up a lot of doors for different tools that you can do inside of Maya. But then like Houdini's like on some other stuff where it's just like you can basically just do whatever. Like if you can think of it, you can find it kind of in a sandbox inside of Houdini. Um,
Yeah, it's
I
like a
don't know.
one-stop shop for
Yeah,
everything. But it's also quite a complicated thing. So
yeah,
it's not like an easy thing to get into. But let's switch gears a bit. And so mm, you did work a lot on characters. So and it seems like no matter what's going on in the world, like no matter what tech is out there, people still love and they need to get like good characters done. So
yeah.
in your opinion, so what makes a good 3D character? Like what are the things that you kind of need to have in order for the character to work?
I mean, having good anatomy for sure. I don't think I'm the best at it. I think there were way other people better than I am, but I feel like I can get it done. I mean, you look at Chris Costa's work, you look at like Raphael Gracietti, like, I mean, Geo Napco, like, I mean, the stuff that they're doing, and like their stylization, like, you know, Matt Thorpe. I mean, I have so many people that like I admire their work. Like, I feel like I work in this industry, but for the most part, I feel like I'm mostly just an admirer of like other artists that are doing um, great work. But like for, I mean, you just look
So
to like Dylan Ekren is really good at like doing stylized stuff. So is um, I mean, that's such a loaded question. I don't know how to answer it.
no, I
uh,
mean, that's the question, because it's very hard to nail a character. I think
yeah,
it's hard to do an environment because of the other reasons, right? But
yeah,
it's especially hard to get a character right. But at the same time, you have a lot of games which are essentially character based.
yeah,
Most of the games are character based, right? Even if you look at something as like Dark Souls or Overwatch or whatever, Fortnite, right? All of them are about characters, and it's also linked closely with like monetization and all the other
yeah.
stuff.
And
So
like
it's like
having,
it's an important part. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, having a good design from the get go. I mean, like I do not. I mean, for my personal stuff, there's been a few times where I've tried to like start something from scratch, and I, I think personally, I'm a terrible designer myself. So like for me as a modeler, like having a good design to go from the base,
Hmm.
like from a designer, or like even from like somebody like Jared. I don't know how to say his last name either. Like Kurvetsky, or like I'm gonna destroy it. He's probably gonna listen to it and be like, God, he destroyed my last name. But like even having like a concept sculpt, I mean, I can do some of that stuff, but usually when I'm doing that stuff, like I have like a lot of reference and a lot of stuff from like an art director that's kind of guiding me towards that goal. But
So, what are the characters that you think worked very well in games? Like
um,
some of
I
them.
mean,
Let's
God of War, like
God of
I think
War. Hmm.
I think his design is awesome. I think,
Yeah, it's tremendous. It's an
yeah,
amazing thing.
I mean, Link from, I mean, Zelda, like over the years,
Hmm.
everything they've done with him has been great. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, Mario on a very simple level, like, is just a great design. You've got, I mean, right now, I've been really impressed with the games from, I can't think of the name of the company right now. The game Hades. Uh, is it Super Giant? Like their character design is amazing. I mean, and most of their stuff is from like an above view, like 3/4 thing, but like everything in their games like looks beautiful. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, the stuff from Blizzard like always has like this very real look, but then it's got like this stylization that like they pack into that real look as well, which like for me is like my favorite stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, I love style. I mean, I love real looking stuff, but like when you can push something to look real, but then have it look stylized at the same time, like that's my favorite. There's a guy, Gabriel, who does it? Soares. There's a couple.
We're gonna put all the links to the people whose name
Yeah,
we
yeah,
butchered into the description to this
yeah.
podcast.
A lot of hard last names, or at least for
Yeah, I
me.
know. I mean, I'm from
Uh,
Ukraine. I mean, you're probably struggling with mine as well.
I mean, I probably would say it right. I'm just butchering it because I'm afraid I'm going to say it wrong.
That's
Uh,
fine.
but
But I agree. I agree. I think Blizzard is, which is kind of like a very corny thing to say, right? The Blizzard does make does great characters. I mean, everybody kind of knows that, right? But
yeah,
at the same time, when you ask them, or especially when somebody is trying to imitate that kind of style and stuff. A lot of people fail, and companies fail, and not a lot of people can actually know how to do that,
Yeah,
right?
and
Because
Riot actually
Mhm,
is a huge success at doing that. Like
mhm,
they kind of took, you know, that style that Blizzard kind of like ran with, and they kind of changed it into their own thing. And now, even with Fortnite, like Fortnite has taken kind of that style, but then made it its own thing, like to where it's even more cartoony and even more kind of towards the Disney style, but like more for adults, I guess. Um,
mhm, mhm.
but like there's I don't know, there's so yeah, I don't like that's such a hard I don't know if I answered it,
I
that
think,
question.
yeah, I'm gonna give you my answer. So why I
Yeah,
think it was, because when I first started playing Overwatch, I
yeah,
don't like these kind of games. I don't play like online multiplayer games, but primarily because I suck at them,
yeah.
and uh, because they also require a lot of time. They require like a ton of time to get good, so on. But when I first launched Overwatch, I thought that, I mean, I could watch these characters do whatever.
Yeah,
They
right?
could do like a cooking show. I would watch
Yeah.
it because it's so much uh,
They're so appealing.
history. Yeah, there's details and appeal, and they all look humane.
Yeah,
They're like people with their own
yeah.
stories and backgrounds, and they're doing something there. So I think that's something that, um, and it goes the same way for like games and environments, right? Because it's very hard to sell it to a gamer when you're launching a game and you see that it's kind of like done on a factory. That it's like you
Yeah,
put
like Call of
this
Duty
and
games.
that. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Like Call of Duty games look amazing, but it's just more stuff that I see in the real world every day. I mean, not that I'm seeing armies and tanks every day, but when you stylize that a little bit, like
I
it,
mean, a good example would be something like Uncharted, or like
yeah,
even
Uncharted.
like the stuff that like Naughty Dog does. Although they are like super realistic games, right? That they at least
Yeah,
they are marketed as something that's like true to life, like realistic in proportions, anatomy, everything's kind of realistic. You you can't help but feel some empathy for those characters on the way
100%.
they behave, kind of like the details and then the background. So I think, to answer my own question, is that to do a character, we kind of it's not as easy as kind of like just do a model or something. There has to be something behind that character,
Yeah,
or like
story.
design or
Right?
something. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
you
yeah,
know.
when you, yeah, no, you nailed it, man. Like when you can feel the story that the character has, like without being told their story, like just by looking at them, you can kind of like feel what their motivation might be, what their
Yeah.
like. That's good character design.
It's the same as is with like photography, right? So I'm a big admirer of street photography. I really
Yeah,
like that, like in the moment shots. And
same.
sometimes in a moment you get like you get wow, you get like a little like story inside the shot. So I
Yeah,
think that's what.
you take like a little bit of their soul with it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's an interesting. I think that's the whole interesting part of like this whole creative process, is that uh, nothing was there, basically, and then you
Yeah,
just sit and spend some time, and you created this guy who's like a world of its own, like he can do whatever, and then you get a bunch of those guys, and you get Overwatch, or you get
yeah,
like Fortnite, or some other stuff, right? So I think overall, like character design is extremely important, if you want to make something that's appealing after all to a
No, for sure.
gamer, and there is a bit of a magic in it, right?
Yeah. No,
It's
there
like,
is. I mean, everything. I don't know. I feel like everything we get to do in this industry has been a magic.
yeah,
Like,
it's true. It's true. That's why
like
people are kind of flocking into it, even
I mean,
though.
you get to be part. Like, I mean, with being in games, like no matter what your like job is, like you get to like help, tell a story. And like, I mean, with films, I think that's what drew me to like be in films when I was a kid. Was I remember seeing like Jurassic Park, and like I remember I already wanted to do like stop motion in films, and then I saw that and I was like, wait, that's like done in a computer, and like it was done in such a good way that like it tells a story, and like it convinces people that in their hearts and minds at the times that they're watching that it's real. Um, and like being able to give that feeling to somebody else, whether it be games or films or even commercials. I mean, I had commercials that have made me cry, and like I mean, just recently, what is it? The guy that did the Avengers. I'm gonna totally butcher his name too.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Taika Waititi, his name.
yeah, he
He's
did.
from
He did
Australia
a
or New Zealand. Uh-huh.
he did a Coca-Cola commercial recently, and like
It's
it
on
was
my
about,
Facebook, man. I shared it.
yeah. That's where I saw it. I shared it from you.
That's a
Um,
crazy one. Yeah.
I mean, granted, they're selling a product, but like to be able to like make people on a huge level feel the emotion that they were trying to sell, like that's magic, man. And like you can't. I mean, being able to bottle that and put that into something, whether it be games or film or whatever it is just and be part of that process is just like an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. All right. So I think we're almost out of time
All
with the
right.
podcast. So maybe the last question. So, what would you say, since you're done teaching and you work with students and everywhere? So, what do you usually say with people whom you teach? Like, what are the things that they should do to get a job and kind of like excel at this?
Um, I mean, one of the first things I said to my students is that, like, I mean, being a good artist is definitely, a super important thing. But I stand by, and I hate that it's part of like, but it's kind of like every industry. But your network and the people that you work with, and like the energy you put out into the world, like in this industry, like I feel like your network is like legit, hands down, probably the most important thing. Um, like being able to work with other people and not be a dick, and like you know being able to like help others out like when they're in need, and um is a big responsibility, but at the same time it's like it's part of the job. I do think continuing to learn is huge, and like now more than ever you've got like places all over the internet where you can continue your education. um, I do think like brick and mortar schools. I mean, right now it's weird because like they're all kind of online, right? Um, but being able to be in like a community of other people to like help you grow and learn is like such a big thing too. Uh, I remember kind of like being in freelance for 11 years, and like having or 12, however long I was in freelance, but like um, during that time, like I felt like I learned a lot of stuff and I was learning stuff online, but like when I didn't really feel like I really had a lot of it set in until I was at the mill again, and like when I was on a team, and like you're like have a team where you're continually like trading ideas, like finding community, I think is huge, uh, for for growth and learning. Being able to bounce ideas off of other people that are in the same creative field as you, or even other fields that are like adjacent, is a huge thing, because like kind of learning by yourself is just kind of you learning in an echo chamber. And when you're able to bounce ideas or ways that you want to learn off of others, I feel like it allows you to grow. It also allows them to grow.
Right. I think that's actually
Yeah.
a good piece of advice. So I think people who are listening to it, it would be great if they follow at least some of it. Anyway, Scott, thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah, man.
It was very pleasant. Thank you so much for your talk, and I hope everything kind of work out. And the good thing is that 2020 is almost over, so
Yeah.
hopefully next year is going to be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a good year. I mean, it's a lot of bad stuff, a lot of weird stuff has happened, but like, I mean, everyone will persevere, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, and I'll put the links to Scott's portfolio in the description so you could check it out. And yeah, thank you for joining.
All right, thank you, man.
Thanks for enjoying another episode of the 80 Level Roundtable podcast. Check out upcoming episodes on the 80 Level website at 80.lv. Join our career site at 80.lv/RFP. And share our podcast with friends and on your social networks.